tell Charles about what you were telling us about the Kristen Cole thing?
Oh, yeah, dude, check this out. So I was like flipping through Instagram, and the actor's social media who plays Kristen Cole, Kristen Cole, he's had to shut down his comments because he's gotten so many people who hate him, and they're like, "You're a freaking piece of shit," and it's like, dude, I don't understand
started this war.
How are people so dumb?
Yeah, people are stupid.
You would be surprised.
Dude.
People take this stuff so far.
It's like, he's just an actor. Like, it's all fake. He's not really.
He seems like a good dude. I think he knows that Kristen Cole's a piece of shit. And it's kind of like what happened with the guy who plays Homelander, where
we were just
I was just talking about Anthony Starr. Yeah. Yeah, people are like he commented recently on like an interview or something. Anthony Starr did that way, and he was like, people see me in person and they like shrink back, and you're like, I'm not a psychopath, right?
I'm not what a psychopath would say.
He's not fake Superman.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not an evil super. I'm not gonna laser beam your face off. Like I'm just a dude, and it's like I don't understand how people can be that.
I think people are they're so divorced from reality. I think sometimes when it comes to because don't get me wrong, I get that when you see a celebrity in person, somebody who's been on your TV screen or computer screen or movie screen, it's a little weird.
It is, yeah. Like, it's a fourth wall breaking thing for sure.
Yeah. But at the same time,
it's very. I know him.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad too because I think about that too. I'm like, if I ran into like somebody that I really like in a TV show, and I don't actually know their real name, and I'm like, oh, you're freaking Starlight from, or whatever, and I'm like, I know you're not really that person. I feel really bad. I don't know your actual name. Welcome, House of the Dragons fans, to the Salty Nerd Podcast, the best place to go for the in-depth discussions about the latest episodes of our favorite TV show, House of the Dragons, or Hot D is what we like to call it here. I'm joined as always.
Get
that hot D. Got to get that weekly Hot D, people. We got Dutch Butters is here in town. What's up, bro? How you doing?
You?
In town, in studio. Judah's also here.
Oh!
Producing the show, Matthew Kadish.
Yes, I'm here too.
And the Sea Snake himself, Charles. What's up, bro?
How you doing?
Got a haircut.
Speaking of hot tea,
of hot D, Charles is in the house. All right. Without wasting any time.
Giant head.
Yeah, the giant head in the screen. He's like the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. All right. Without wasting any time, this episode picks up immediately, like instantaneously, right after the death of the child from the previous episode. The entire King's Landing is in upheaval. They are gathering all of the servants. All of the soldiers are running through the hallways.
It's chaos.
It's complete chaos. They're like, who freaking did it? Hunt them down right now. And we've got King Aegon, who is just losing his ever living mind in his bedroom, I guess, in the King's hold or whatever you want to call it. You had a problem with this because you were like, don't freaking destroy the model, bro.
That was the next. Was that this?
That's this scene, yeah. Straight off the bat.
I used to build things like that. So when I know the work that goes into building models.
Right.
And it's like, man, don't break it. Don't do a temper tantrum and break it.
It's actually good because it's super symbolic when you think about it.
Yeah.
So I get it.
That his father built all this up, actually secured the dynasty, and then his children are the ones who are going to destroy it. So it's very symbolic.
That's a good point. It is very symbolic of what's actually happening because we spent the entire first season watching King Viserys build that thing.
Yeah.
Painstakingly. Because he was like falling apart, like dying, and he was still building it.
I did watch the behind the scenes documentary thing.
Oh, you did?
And they put in a stunt pieces for the model. So,
that's nice.
So someday maybe we'll be able to go see that model at the Stratosphere or some shit when they have the Game of Thrones display.
Game of Thrones experience.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones experience. Here in Las Vegas, that's going to happen. But yeah,
be like the bodies exhibit.
Yeah,
exactly.
So obviously,
Titanic and dragons.
After the death of a prince, obviously, everybody's going to be on edge. Everybody's they're gathering all the servants. They're trying to figure out what happened. But there was one moment in particular that I found the most interesting out of this whole sequence was Aemond searching his room and finding like, oh, they were actually here for me. And he's like, all his little coins on his map were missing. He looks under the door. The door's open. He's like, this door's not supposed to be open. Like, there's like clues that they were like, oh shit.
Obviously.
Yeah.
His dragon getting a snack a couple months ago was
really just
very problematic. Very problematic.
It really just ruined everything for everybody.
That was tasty.
Oh, what's the real father's name again? Stronghand or something? What's the guy's?
Carwin Strong.
Strong, yeah. His kids. He's got that taste. He got the taste of the Strongs in his mouth.
Strong tastes.
Yeah. So, Jude, do you have any thoughts about this opening sequence here with the I don't know, just ransacking the castle and getting everybody going?
No, I mean, I think it's pretty much that's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit further in, I'll have a lot more to say as far as like book versus show. This is really just for the show.
Yeah, we have a conversation between Otto and his daughter, the queen.
She's the Dowager Queen.
Allison.
She's a
dowager. I don't know.
She's the Dowager Queen, since she's not her husband queen. Is not the king. So
let's talk about this conversation a little bit, because they had some choice words to say to each other. And Otto is like, dude, this guy, he's like, you know what? We can actually come out on top with this. And I'm like, bro, like
this kid did us a favor.
Yeah, and it was so dark.
And that was the thing, is like before they had that separate side conversation, there was a emergency small council conversation where Aegon wanted war. Like immediately he wanted to kill everyone.
You're gonna get it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, dude, Aegon's reaction in this episode, like, I know,
completely justified.
Completely, 100%. I never felt like this guy was over the top at all. He's like, somebody decapitated his young child in his own bed.
Not only that, his heir,
yeah, and he's losing his mind. He's like, we are going to war now, and everybody's like, whoa, let's calm down a little bit. He's like, I'm not gonna go calm. No,
we're at that point again. We're at that point in the show where they're messing with our heads again and making us sympathetic to one side over the other.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with Team Green right now, and I don't want to be.
And even more so, like, and I guess that's the positive. I wouldn't say it's a positive, but I guess that's the urgency that they added by removing Maelor, is that, okay, that's his heir. His heir is gone. So now he has only one child, but it's a girl. It's not a son. So now that's even more dire to Aegon's claim to the throne.
So do you think, in comparison to the books, we talked about this last week, where like there was 3 kids and the one son was like, he knows that he got chosen to die, but then they left him alive. So now that you see kind of how they're maneuvering this, how do you guys feel? Jude?
I think it would be interesting for Aegon to only have a daughter left, and now he has to name an heir, and it's his daughter, and that's the situation that he has usurped. I think that's an interesting take if the show wants to go there. I was texting Charles while Kadish and I were watching this, because we've both read the books and Kadish has it, and I kept making Kadish like stop and be like, okay,
oh god, that would drive me freaking insane. I could not watch this show with you.
While I'm watching it. But I was texting Charles and I was like, I think the showrunners are Greens, because like they're giving so much agency to the Greens, like the sympathetic take on the Greens.
Yeah.
And that is just like, in the books, correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, in the books, like Aegon doesn't freak out like this hard on the fact like he's not devastated that it's his son. He's mad that someone would dare to defy him.
Sure.
Is the more of the take of the book.
You disagree, Charles?
I think that he was mad that it was his son, but at the same time, the Greens were painted a lot less sympathetically in the books, because he was doing a jig and a dance when Aemond got Lucerys killed.
Yeah, he held a feast.
Yes, he did. So I also think the thing we're also remembering is that Otto, given what a political animal he is that he was the one who, and Helena, I almost said Helena, sorry, wrong Targaryen. Alicent and Otto kind of pushed upon Aegon, let's have a public funeral procession when we get Jaehaerys over to the dragon pit to be burned. And he initially was just like, I don't want my son paraded around like some prop. But they're realizing it's like, hey, this works in our favor. This will turn people against Rhaenyra.
Yeah, that was the small council meeting where they came up with this idea. Like, just as a dad, and I hate saying, like, as this person, like, but to have somebody say, yeah, we're going to publicly show your son's body and we're going to stitch it back together. It's just like, dude, what? It's
when he says Jaehaerys can do more for us now than he did when he was
and he's not
more
wrong.
than any battles, any war. Exactly. That's what he said.
He wasn't wrong
that
though
was
either.
Terrible.
So. No.
Yeah.
The scene where they did do the public possession down the road.
Yeah. Can we?
Who thought the baby's head was going to fall off?
Oh, totally.
It did. It did.
No,
hold on. No, guys.
They got stuck in the rut.
No. You didn't hear the line afterwards? Okay, so if they don't show it, and this is one of the things I wanted.
If they didn't show it, they don't count.
No,
because I wanted to see that.
Well, they show him getting decapitated anyway.
Yeah, listen, I think this show is actually pulling its punches.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah, and we'll get to another.
We'll get to that.
In this episode, where they pulled the punches big time.
Yeah, they're pulling their punches, especially because off the heels of Game of Thrones, which was like, I mean, it was gruesome. There was sex, there was death, there was all the crazy stuff, and they showed everything.
Awesome.
It was brutal. Awesome. This show, in comparison, is like PG.
Yeah,
like they cut away from everything.
Yeah.
Now they're going down this funeral procession. They've got the kids. Obviously, the head, you can see the stitching on it. It's like Frankenstein on there, and I'm like, good lord. And they're going down this bumpy cobblestone road,
and the head kind of like.
You can see it starts jostling, and then it hard cuts to. I think it goes back to Dragonstone. I'd have to look at it again, but I think it cuts to a different scene. And there's a line in there where it says. Somebody mentions like, yeah, it was misfortune. Yeah, it was basically like it was a complete botch that freaking whole thing happened because then the entire place saw that poor child fall apart.
Oh God!
Yeah.
They said
I did not hear that.
Yeah, go back and watch it.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
Go back and watch it. They definitely mention that they don't show it on screen, but they do say in a line that the whole area of King's Landing saw the child fall apart. And it was like, whoa.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
Check it out. Yeah, fact check me in the comments, guys, if you know for sure. But
because what happened is that they cut straight to Dragonstone after that procession.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the first time we saw Dragonstone.
So I think what it was, I wish I could remember for sure, but I think the maester that was talking to Rhaenyra was the one who said that. Because he was informing her about how the funeral procession went and how everybody turned against her, and it was like it's unfortunate.
I should have rewatched it.
Yeah, they were like it's unfortunate that the people of King's Landing had to see that because it totally turned them against you when they see the child's head fall. And I was like, whoa, they did, it totally did.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Okay.
I want to comment just really quick before we move on to the next part of the show. This whole intro, the whole beginning, the first like 10 minutes,
the tapestry thing, or the
whole thing.
Yeah,
from the beginning of the episode. Up through almost to where they did the procession with I thought it was brilliant. Just the music, the violin music, the way they set up the mood, the camera work, the dark scenes with like the little wisps of shit floating through the air.
Oh yeah, it was very artsy fartsy.
There was very artsy fartsy, but it was so well done.
Yeah.
It was just like it was like I commented last week. This show is next level. In every way compared to everything else that we're watching on TV. And I just sat there and I actually rewound a couple scenes just to appreciate the artfulness of the introduction of this episode.
That's high praise from you.
Crazy coming from me. But it was there and it's to be appreciated, and people need to notice these things, and compare it to the other bunch of crap.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening. You're comparing it to like The Acolyte and freaking
this stuff's like watching a fucking Scorsese movie.
Yeah,
compared
to the big thing too is you're absolutely right, Matt. In terms of, I think the first couple minutes there was no real dialogue. It was just showing the people like they were ushering all the servants into that little quarter, and there's just screaming and panic, and it was a great way to kind of really set the chaos after everything got discovered with Jaehaerys and what happened to him. And then even, oh God, this was such a great scene where actually I don't know if it was Kristen Cole who found it was Kristen Cole when they found the bed sheets that were covered in blood.
Yeah. And they were taking the mattress out and it was stained.
Yeah.
That's a great thing to mention.
There's just so many little things in the beginning of this episode that I appreciate it. I thought were worth mentioning. So.
Kadish, you haven't said anything yet. Do you have any thoughts about this opening sequence?
I thought it was good.
Nice. I'm so glad you're here, man.
That's my trick. It's my trick. Good job.
Paint a picture. I feel like I'm there.
I just wanted to add that
go ahead,
everything that Vader or Dutch said is apt and correct, and I agree with them. However, if you are comparing it to a show
That's terrible.
Well, no, like the first adaptation of Game of Thrones was so visceral.
Yeah.
And it feels like this is Game of Thrones light because they're doing everything off screen that you are expecting to happen. So when you're expecting these big major moments to happen, you don't get to be a part of it, which is a weird. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Let's put it like this. Everybody still to this day will know exactly what you're talking about when you say the Red Wedding.
Right.
Because it was such this like holy shit moment.
Yeah.
And when you talk about that to somebody else who watched the show, they're like, "Oh my god, I could not believe when I heard the Reigns of Castamere." It's like this.
I screamed out loud.
It's like this shared freaking trauma that we all share.
Yeah.
This show, if it continues to pull its punches, it's not going to have that.
It's sucking the emotional impact from these scenes.
Yeah. Like I mean, if let's just say, sorry, I'll get to you in a second, Charles. If we just say. Well, they did show this poor toddler's head roll off that wagon and go down King's Landing's cobble streets, and some freaking poor homeless King's Landing, street rat like picked it up and was like, "Look what I had!" Like did something, like we'd all be like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
that didn't happen. So now we're like, "Yeah, I think it happened, but it wasn't on screen." And somebody said a line in this one scene where they were like, kind of mentioned it
that his head did fall off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're in. Go ahead, Charles. Go ahead.
So basically, and like you said. When the Red Wedding happened, even people who hadn't watched the show, it broke the internet.
Yeah.
It blew up on social media. And here's the thing about it. With the major events that happened in Game of Thrones, when in the glory days, when it was still good, even the main events that were going to happen, whether it be the Red Wedding, the Purple Wedding, Oberyn Martell versus the Mountain, even though they still kept to how it was done in the book, they still made it different so that even if you're a book reader, just like, oh crap, like in the Red Wedding, what happened to Talisa, like how she died.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I did not see that coming. And then even how Oberyn got killed by the Mountain, that was way different in the books. And in a good way, it was different in the show. Like popped him like a watermelon. And you didn't see that coming. Where this show keeps pulling its punches, and I'll let you get to like once you get to the Rhaenyra part first, but I have some thoughts on there, and I'm sure Jude does too.
Yeah.
So,
real quick before we get to that, so King Aegon and the clubfoot guy, what's his name again?
Larys.
We're just gonna call him
Larys Strong.
Strong. Okay, Larys Strong.
Harwin's younger brother. This
was actually a little frustrating because I mean we have to backstep a little bit because we kind of missed it, but they did mention that they found like Strong came in and he's like. He comes into the small council and he says, "We found him. We found an ex-gold cloak who had a bag with the child's head in it. Yeah. We've captured him." And I'm like, how did this idiot get captured?
Yeah.
Like
he was trying to leave the city and the gates were closed.
What an idiot!
Yeah. Well, he had to go collect his reward.
It was like freaking hunker down. Like, did Daemon just ghost him? He just bounced because like Daemon said he was going to pay the second half afterwards, but then he didn't stick around to get the head.
I think he was supposed to come to Dragonstone with the head. I don't know how.
That's a bad plan, dude. This freaking gold cloak's not going to make it all the way to Dragonstone. What are you, nuts? Like, Daemon needs to stay there.
He's a former gold cloak. Figure it out, man.
He did get in trouble, though. So there's that. He got in trouble because this guy's not very smart.
Yeah.
So and just to confirm, like, just so anyone watching, this was obviously before the funeral.
Yes, obviously. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I apologize. I missed that scene when we were doing we got so, into talking about the funeral. That part frustrated me a little bit because I was like, what a freaking dumbass. Like, how did you get captured like 15 minutes later, dude? Like, Jesus Christ. But anyway, so we get a scene where they've captured the Blood out of the Blood and Cheese, right? So his nickname is Blood. They capture him, and Aegon comes in, and he's got this freaking club.
Oh, but before we get to that, the funny part is, so the clubfoot comes in, and he like unfurls his like torture bag.
Yeah.
And Blood's sitting there, and he just starts talking.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, spills the beans,
he's
man.
He's not even fully in the room yet. And he's like, so it was Daemon, and he paid me this, and then he said this, and then I was like, well, I don't know, man, but I guess I have to, because,
And then he was like, so are you going to hurt me? And Larry's Strong is like, oh, I'm not going to, but I can't promise the king won't.
Yeah. And then the king comes in, and I wish there's, like, again, as a dad, I would like to have seen Aegon given a little bit more of a intimidating entrance, I guess, or something like that. Like, here, you just literally killed this kid's son. he is enraged. He's going to come in there and he's going to murder you in the most brutal way possible. And they're just like, he just casually walks in, hits him in the head, and then walks out. And I'm like, what?
No, he didn't walk out. Like he hits him, and then it cuts away to a different scene, and it's implied that the guy got worked over.
And again, they're going to torture him off scring.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I need to see it every single time, but it feels like they're just. It's constantly blue balling me every time.
He should have Ramsay Bolton the guy.
I was just gonna say, bring the dogs in.
Yeah,
bite his dick off.
Bring the dogs in. Yeah,
play him.
They would have been
bloody.
And you know, even another thing too is you brought up a great point, Alex, in terms of when in Game of Thrones season 7, when what's her face, Ilaria and one of the Sand Snakes got captured.
Right. Oh yeah.
They did. Like when Cersei walked in there, you're just like, oh, what is she gonna do? You're dreading.
You're
dreading
what she's
gonna do, but you're dreading it.
Yeah.
You know.
I didn't feel the intimidation factor when the king walks into the man who murdered his kid. It was just too casual.
So what you guys are saying is that you want more gratuitous gore and
yes,
maybe a little bit.
A little bit.
I want more of an emotional impact in these scenes that are supposed to be emotionally impacting.
Sure.
And I don't necessarily think that it means like I gotta see the gore, but like I want to see the repercussions of things happening. I don't just want to hear like stab, 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 and then cut to Dragonstone. Like
as artfully as they do the funeral and the slow motion scenes and the dust in the air and all these beautiful shots and these wonderful cinematic moments, and then when they come down to like the real nitty gritty of the show, they cut to a different scene, and it's like,
think of it this way: we all remember.
Hold on, Charles.
We all remember the movie 7.
Oh yeah.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? We never see what
he kicks it, and you barely see the slightest blur of something. That was so impactful. We're still fucking talking about that today. And with this, you just hear, and then it cuts to Dragonstone.
I think one of the biggest problems with this show, and this goes back to the first season as well, is that Brian Condon doesn't quite know how to deliver payoffs to stuff that has been set up, especially for people who are fans of the book. Like there's so much stuff in the book where people are like, I really want to see that play out. And then when it does, people are just kind of like, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Charles. I know you've been trying to say something.
But I think even they have an advantage right now when it comes to season 2, because in season 1, obviously there's a lot of ground to cover and they had to do time jumps in order to make that happen, like a lot of time jumps, not even just a big 10-year one. But now you have time. They can take their time a little more. So like they can let things breathe. And to Jude's point, with 7, even though we didn't really see what was in the box, we saw the reaction to it.
Yeah.
Particularly, we saw Morgan Freeman's reaction to it, where he's just like, oh, like that. And so it's like, even if you're not going to show something, at least show the reaction to it, or someone's reaction to the horror of it, or maybe they no-sell it, or even just a tiny little thing, like without going too far into the weeds. Do you guys remember that movie, The Constant Gardener?
No.
Okay, well, whatever. Without getting into it, basically, there was a scene where it was Ralph Fiennes and Rachel Weisz, and her character gets killed very brutally. We never see her body, but we see, whatever, I mean, that's the whole thing of it. But it's just like, we see his reaction, and it's so understated, but it's so impactful. And so even something like that, where maybe you see Loras getting off on it without winking off like he usually does. Or just when he's killing, just something where it's like you see a reaction, or you see like, you don't just cut away.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
even
you have to see, how does this affect the characters? How does this affect the characters that we're supposed to care about and be engaged in?
Even when they showed Helena's reaction, it was so underwhelming that it was just like she went to her safe place in her mind and then booked it out of there.
Yeah, she's
there
a weirdo.
was no horror.
But she's a bit
freak.
Yeah, she's a bit of a weirdo.
She reacted exactly like I thought she was.
Okay, but so is Aegon, and they're giving Aegon so much more like the horror of what has happened to him and his children and his fury, and he's becoming unhinged. And Helena, they're just like, oh, sometimes I have visions and no one listens to me. And, oh, that one over there is the boy. Oh, they killed the boy. It's so fucking underwhelming. And what happens to her is so devastating.
Yes.
She becomes she loses her fucking mind, and she becomes more and more unhinged.
Spoilers.
And
let's not say too much. Let's not say too much.
No, but I'm just saying she fucking deteriorates, and this is when it starts, and you're getting none of that.
Interesting. Vader, you were going to say? Or Matt, yeah, whatever.
I have no issues with with the way they're treating these characters. I haven't read the book. I don't know. So I guess I'm not picking up on some of these things that Jude and Charles are, but I'm having no problems going along with this.
Don't read books.
That's the moral of the story, kid.
It apparently makes it unenjoyable to watch a great fucking So
all right, let's move on to Dragonstone. So we get basically the small council with Rhaenyra and everybody over there reacting to the news about what's going on. They're like, that we just lost all
David's
the support.
Like,
dude, okay, I want to talk about Matt Smith real quick, because this guy... Dude, he's got this shit-eating grin on his face the whole time. And I'm like...
everybody is avoiding looking at him for the longest time. I'm like, look at this motherfucker.
Everybody knows he did it.
He's like,
and he's just like, he's kind of like, you know, whatever happens, happens.
Maybe,
maybe. You know? And I'm frustrated for Rhaenyra, because he's like, he totally botched this whole thing. And he's just like, yeah, it's fine. Like, no big deal, guys.
I'm getting very... irritated at Rhaenyra and Daemon being at odds with each other. He does do this thing that fucks her.
Right.
However, when they're together and they are like he's very much like Jon Snow with Daenerys towards the end of Game of Thrones. He's like, you're my queen and I am on your side and we are a united front. And this bickering back and forth.
Yeah, I'm not getting that from him.
Is very irritating. It's grating on my nerves.
Huh.
So I'll tell you this. My thoughts on this has been a problem. I don't know, Jude, if you feel the same way. I really don't like how they're Pollyanna. They're making Rhaenyra Pollyanna.
How do you mean?
Like it because
I don't know what that means.
So Pollyanna is kind of like somebody who's kind of like, oh, bright and sunny and good and just like no flaw. It's just they're not giving her an edge. They feel like they're nerfing her. Like her son got eaten by a fucking dragon probably a week ago. And where's the anger? Where's the bitterness? We should be seeing a shift in her behavior because of how her son, probably her favorite son, died. And we aren't seeing that shift. Like, she's no longer the realm's delight. I want to see Rhaenyra the Cruel. I want to see the reason why people start calling her Maegor with teeth. Yes, Maegor with teeth. I want to start seeing that. And we're not seeing that. We're still just, she's still too much on the defensive. And I don't like that. You know, and I think even, you're absolutely right, Jude, in terms of the fact of them bickering is that, again, changing some things is fine, but it's just like, I think the bickering is problematic, you know, in terms of their relationship. I guess they're trying to just add a divide, but I want to see how this experience is changing Rhaenyra. We're seeing how it's changing Aegon, how he's becoming more forthright. He doesn't want to be a puppet. We've seen the moves that he makes in this episode, which Alex will get to later.
Yeah.
But I want to see Rhaenyra not just so on the defensive. What is she doing differently after Luke's death? How did Luke's death change her? And we're not seeing that, and that bothers me.
Yeah. So, they're giving so much more, the showrunners are giving so much more agency to the Greens, and they're pulling back on everything that's supposed to be happening with the Blacks. It's making me think that they are Greens.
Yes.
Go ahead, babe.
It just makes me think that there was more to say about the Greens this episode than the Blacks. You know, next episode might be all black.
Maybe.
You know, who knows?
Yeah.
So I didn't read the book though, so I don't know where we're going.
Well, I mean, I can see what they're saying as far as like Rhaenyra is concerned. She still seems like she's trying to salvage something in this episode where she's like, I don't want to do that. That's terrible. How, oh my God, I feel so bad for them. I half expected her to be like, let me go down to King's Landing and apologize. And it's like, what are we doing here?
No.
So I'm going to rely on Jude and Charles on this next part because I'm not quite sure what's happening, but Rhaenyra is talking to her niece, the sea snake's stepdaughter.
This is Baela. This is Daemon's daughter.
Daemon's daughter. Okay.
Baela.
I'm not familiar enough with these characters to kind of really understand what's going on. So Jude, can you kind of fill me in on what this dynamic is going on?
Luke's betrothed.
Yes.
Or not Luke.
Jace's
betrothed. So her older son is engaged to Baela.
Right.
I don't know what else. What was your question?
Well, I just like they have this conversation with each other, and I'm like, why are we spending time?
She
time
tells her go get on her dragon and go patrol.
Yeah, so
let us know what's going on.
Bela is Damon's daughter,
right?
One of the twins,
and she has sea snake blood in her, and she's a dragon rider, and so the blacks have the advantage when it comes to the dragons, but they don't have enough riders, and so they needed eyes on what was happening at King's Landing, and so Rhaenyra was ordering her to go and kind of keep an eye on things and see like what the fallout.
Patrol and report back.
Fly high.
Because Jacaerys actually volunteered to do that, but she's like, no.
Yeah. I lost too many kids.
She's like, hell no.
And Bela will do anything for Jace.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's basically she's just trying to utilize her
I think
assets.
at one point he's like, you gotta get out of here, save yourself, and she's like, fuck that. We ride together, we die together.
Yeah.
Bad Boys 4.
Yeah.
There's also like a couple interesting subplots here. One is like Big Bill from
Hugh the Hammer.
Yeah, Hugh the Hammer. We saw a scene with him, and we also saw a scene with the two brothers that one of them's
Eric and Ark.
No. The black
Adam
guys.
and Alan.
Oh, yeah.
Adam and Alan. And so there's this thing in the books called dragon seeds. And these are basically people who aren't of Targaryen descent who are able to ride dragons. And they play a kind of a important part down the road in terms of like, how the war plays out. And they're starting to set up these dragon seeds in this season. So
I believe they're mostly of Valyrian descent because I think Corlys had a couple of bastards.
Yeah. And you're right, absolutely. You actually hit the nail on the head. Like I didn't want to get too far ahead, but they did actually set up. We actually see sea smoke for the first time in like forever.
Go ahead.
Because I remember you texted me and I was just like, wait, what? Because I wasn't really paying attention to them. And then I was like, oh, that's who they are. So,
yeah.
Was the dragon that was flying over the ocean when he was on the beach?
And that was Laenor's dragon, who is not dead, but who is dead. That was who was married to Rhaenyra. And so here's my thing. So somebody is supposed to claim and ride that dragon, but when you claim and you become a dragon rider and you claim your dragon and you bond with your dragon, that's it. That dragon doesn't accept other riders. So I don't know how the show is going to pay this off. I think they're going to have to give him another dragon because otherwise I think a lot of people are going to be like, that can't happen.
It doesn't accept a rider unless their previous rider died.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't die.
But he didn't die.
His death. What, does the dragon know that?
Yeah, the dragon has a bond with its rider.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Magic, man.
Yeah, man. All right, so we're back in King's Landing, and I want to talk about Sir Criston Cole and the burr that he has up his ass with with the twin brother guy. Go ahead.
But before we get into that, I just wanted to point out that there are some good scenes here between Criston Cole and
Alicent.
Yeah. Where basically Criston Cole is blaming himself for what happened because he was supposed to be on guard that night. Instead, he was in bed with the queen, sullying his honor.
He was gardener with that dick.
That hot D.
Yeah. I'll just garden this pussy right here.
Yeah, she was riding the coal train. But it was interesting, watching how he was like kind of observing them take down the twins' beds and stuff like that, and you could see in his face like just how devastated he was.
Pass that blame. Pass that blame right along.
Yeah.
Don't let it touch you.
So he goes down to the barracks where what are they? The King's Guard, right? Yeah.
The white cloaks.
Yeah, the white cloaks. I was almost gonna say gold cloaks, and then I can.
Wrong cloak.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not right. And then he picks a fight with. Remind me of the guy. I know the guy. The other guy's name is Eric. Arik and Eric. Okay. Yeah. Forgive me for not knowing that.
I get him confused all the time.
He goes down there and he starts picking a fight with Arik, basically passing the buck to him. Right. Like, where were you? And he's like, well, dude, where were you? Look how dirty your cape is. And he's like, what the hell is your problem,
looks like
bro?
your soul.
Yeah. It was such a freaking horseshit conversation.
One of my notes says, I hate Crispy so much.
Yeah.
But it actually mirrored what happened in the season premiere where Daemon was getting on Eric's case. Like, it's interesting that even though both had chosen a side, both sides are still saying, we don't trust you.
Yeah. And that comes up later. That comes up later in the episode too. But they have this conversation, and this is when Kristen Cole comes up. Kristen Cole, Kristen Cole comes up with a plan. And I don't know if this is I don't know if he planned this out before he had this conversation, or he was like, well, you have a twin brother, right?
Yeah.
Because he basically says, look, man, you have a twin brother, and he's in deep with the blacks, and you're going to go down there, and you're going to sneak your way in, and you're going to kill the queen. And the guy's like, wait, what? How the hell do you expect me to do that?
I kind of like that the show had Kristen sent him, because it just doubles down on the whole, like, Kristen Cole is such a fucking villain.
He's the worst. He's like the Ironborn. The worst. But actually, this has repercussions. Kristen Cole taking that initiative has repercussions.
Yes, it does.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Matt. You were going to say something?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But one thing I also, I wanted to jump back to something real quick. That was a nice callback to something that happened in the end of season 1, is that when Rhaenyra and Daemon were fighting, he kind of gets angry and like leaps up and like smashes something, and she like recoils.
Oh, yes.
Which is a great callback from when he basically choked her at the end of season 1.
She doesn't trust him. She doesn't trust Daemon.
That was the thing I wanted to add. So that was that.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think this plan was actually pretty solid if it would have just been executed properly. Because it was like, yeah, you have a twin brother. We could figure out a way to get you in there. And they just, I think...
The way they figured out to get him in there was he just got on a boat. And
he just went on a boat and got up there. And nobody caught, not the Armada.
Put this helmet on.
Yeah, we'll put my helmet on.
It'd be like me walking around with your...
my Mandalorian helmet on.
Before we get to that, an important scene happened with Rhaenyra before that happened.
Talk to me.
Before we saw him.
Which one are you talking about?
When Rhaenyra met with Mysaria.
Yeah.
Because Mysaria was in the Dragonstone jails. And so she met with her. And so remember how she actually let her go, because she's just kind of like, you know what?
Yeah. She was also honoring Daemon's word.
Yes.
He's like, look, Daemon said I'll get my freedom. And she's like, well, I don't trust you. So you're not staying here, but fine. Fine.
But she might have earned her stripes, though. She earned her stripes, though.
Well, so we're going to kind of spoil this section of the show real quick, but like the White Worm lady is walking down towards the docks where they're going to basically ship her off to Pentos or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we're going to get rid of you. You're going to be out of the picture. She's walking down, and she knows that Sir Eric was inside.
She just was talking to Eric.
She's just talking to him. And now she's walking down, and she sees him walk up towards the castle, and they don't tell you what she does or whether she raises an alarm or anything like that.
She's like,
huh.
Well, she got the attention of
the guard. She goes, hold on a second. Can I have a moment? But they never show you what she actually does. She doesn't go, hey, I just saw his twin walk up that wall. And like, so they leave it ambiguous whether or not she helped the blacks or not. And I don't know. Is there a spoiler in the books? Do we know for sure? Should we spoil it?
So here's the thing. Because I mean, we see it in the episode. Mysaria was not involved in that situation. In the books, Arik and Eric actually see each other. Before Arik can even get to Rhaenyra, Eric just happens to see him. They meet each other in the hallway, and
Oh, that would make so much more sense.
Right.
One of my issues with this was that he just kind of like showed up on a boat and nobody said anything.
This is supposed to be the most epic battle.
Mm-hmm.
And the show just went, and then they fight.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good...
I was so looking forward to this fight. I was like, ooh, Eric and Ark, it's happening. Eric and Ark, it's happening.
So the Eric and Ark showdown is one of like the most, like, I say romantic in the sense of like epic stories.
Yeah, brother versus brother.
Within the Dance of Dragons.
Yeah.
And when you read the original Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin, it's mentioned numerous times, and it's always like this major tragedy where like they both died in each other's arms and like stuff like that.
Sobbing and declaring that they love each other
they
while
they
still have to
they did that.
fight.
Well, sort of. And this goes back to one of my big issues with the Hot D TV show, which is like they really fail every single time that there's like this big payoff to something that book readers have wanted to see like on screen. They always kind of like, they don't stick to the landing. They've done this numerous times, throughout the course of like these 2 seasons so far.
Go ahead.
Is it one of those things that people just get built up in their brain And then when they try to actually manifest it on a TV screen, it's not going to be as cool and as big as you ever think
I need to tell you this. So like there are some things where as a creator, as a filmmaker, storyteller, whatever you want to call yourself, you know that you need to pay off for the audience because the audience wants it. And so there are certain things that you need to like treat special, whereas like you might be able to take liberty with other bits of the story, but there are certain iconic moments in, you know, the history of Westeros and the Song of Ice and Fire and stuff like that, that you can't just cheap out on. And the Arik and Eric fight was cheaped out on big time.
This is one of those battles or tragic fights that was told generation after generation, that it was still being told.
It became a song.
Yeah, it was still being told 200 years later, this fight. And what we got was something that just, remember that happened Tuesday? Yeah.
The fight was also supposed to be far more epic and involved. And one of the interesting things about it is that the people watching it unfold, they didn't know who was who, so they didn't know how to step in. And
I thought for sure, I know we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but I thought for sure when that happened, there was going to be this like, no, he's Eric. No, he's Eric. Like, I thought there was going to be that moment. Nothing. It was just like...
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, Jude, in terms of, and Matt, you hit the head, Kadish Matt, and you hit the nail on the head in terms of this became like a song, because that's one of the big things about how history is told and romanticized. Arik and Eric, the twins who died in each other's arms because they're on opposite sides, and it was cheaped out on. I think the only moment that's really, really paid off so far, like book moment, was Luke's death. That was really it, because it was how it was done. But everything else, they pulled their punches or haven't stuck the landing, and it's very, again, it's frustrating.
To Matt's point, because him and I are not book readers, and I'm just kind of watching the show as it is. I felt like the Eric and Eric fight was kind of stunted. I wanted to see more. I liked that he was like kind of sneaking around. I liked the idea that he was able to get close. I liked that Rhaenyra was like, "Oh, Eric, what's the matter?" And he's like, "I'm so sorry, I have to do this." And like that was all good. But then that fight, it was so short-lived. And I was like, oh, man, these are they're supposed to be like the best fighters. I
thought they were going to take half an episode.
I'm like, this is going to be like a freaking epic, like Viper versus the Mountain fight kind of a thing or something like that. And it was going to be insane, and it was going to be heartfelt, and it was going to be like this sad moment. Like,
this should have been heartbreaking. It was a sad moment.
It was
heartbreaking.
But I wanted it bigger.
So what the fuck you guys want? You like swords with lightning?
Yes, I want God's fight.
But like just have it happen outside the room. You know, have them kind of like move around.
I'm so glad I don't read these books.
I didn't read the books.
I'm so glad.
Hold on, Charles. Hold on.
I just hear dismay and unhappiness coming out of both these guys ever since we started watching this show. They needed to do this different. They need to do that different. Like, it's like, I'm sorry, guys, but I'm loving this fucking show.
That's good.
And you know,
remember the battle between Inigo and the six-fingered man?
Yes.
It should have been like that.
Because I think ultimately, when it comes to all the politicking, all the schemes, all the plots, all the this, you're still in a very kind of feudal medieval society. And so you have to pay it off. Those one-on-one fights, you can have those big battles, those armies clashing, great. But when you have those one-on-one battles, those are the ones that are remembered.
This is also an epic fantasy. And there are certain tropes that have to be paid off with fantasy.
It's a soap opera with dragons and swords.
Yes, that too. Tits and dragons.
But the biggest issue I had with this fight was how, like, so there's this long setup of Arik making his way through the castle, trying to find Rhaenyra. And, you know, he avoids his brother and all this stuff. And his brother kind of has these like side-eye looks where he's like, he's getting like a weird feeling.
Yeah.
But then like all of a sudden, and I know that it's like, oh, off screen misery alerted so-and-so or like whatever. But like, he just like burst in at like the most opportune time without any setup or anything like that to explain why he suddenly decided to check in on the queen. And it was just like, it was such a plot contrivance that they had him show up at that moment. And I feel like this show does that a lot, especially like, I remember the first season where they had like the wedding, for instance, and there was like a lot of stuff that just kind of happened in that episode because it needed to happen as opposed to being like organic from the story. And this show tends to do that a lot, I think.
Yeah, these two are supposed to die in each other's arms. And this battle should have taken a very long time because they're both very skilled warriors. Yeah. And they each dealt each other mortal blows. And they know neither of them. By the end, they know neither of them are surviving. But they just have to keep going. And this takes a long time. And then they die holding each other.
So how did you feel about him falling on the sword then? Because that's
hated it.
You hated that.
I hated it. In my notes, I said, Eric, WTF, Eric kills himself, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
My assumption as to why he did that was because
he just killed his brother.
Well, he
was mortally wounded anyway.
Do you think so? Because the only thing that we saw him get wounded from was a leg wound.
They were both wasted.
He wasn't mortally wounded.
Yeah, they're supposed to be fucked up. Neither of them are going to walk away from this fight.
I didn't think his injuries were that bad.
And they keep going.
A 7-8 minute fight would have been better.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be half the episode.
All right,
or at least have them both impale each other at the same time.
Yeah,
like that would have made sense. Like the whole idea that like, okay, I just killed my brother. He was basically like the other half of me, so I'm going to like fall on my sword and kill myself. That didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
because he could have stayed alive, right?
It made complete sense.
Really.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. We'll have to agree to disagree. Comment below what you guys think. We got to move on.
Just taking the book personally.
We're spending so much time on this one thing. We get it. We didn't like it. Okay.
Like the show
it made sense to me, but I didn't like it.
All right. The next big moment, and this was my favorite moment in the show, so we could change it up a little bit. I'm not going to dog on the show anymore. When Aegon brings in Otto and he removes him as the hand of the king.
Oh yeah,
that was a freaking great moment. I was like rooting for this freaking kid. He picked the worst dude to take the job. But that being said, this conversation when Otto comes in and he's like, "Well, at least we're doing something. We sent Sir Eric," and he's like, "You did fucking what?"
Well, you guys set the stage first. So basically, the king kills all the rat catchers in King's Landing.
Yes, yeah.
Because even though they caught Blood, they never caught Cheese, and Blood didn't know Cheese's real name. And so basically, in order to get revenge on the other person that was responsible for the death of his child, the king just decides to murder all the rat catchers, even the innocent ones.
Which is why you see so many cats in current King's Landing.
And it's funny because you fall on the side of the king on this one, but like I was like Team Otto on this one because he walks in, he's like, you just undid everything that all the misery we went through trying to capitalize on your son's death. You just undid all of that. And Otto he finally breaks and he finally tells the king exactly what he thinks of him. And it was it was a moment of weakness because he was just like so at the end of his rope. He's like, after all my carefully laid plans, all the stuff I sacrificed, you just go and throw it away.
Strategically, he is correct.
Yes.
But when Aegon was like, "Look, we didn't know which rat catcher, so we just killed them all," and I was like, "Yeah, all right."
And they did get the guy in that. And to what you're saying, you hit the nail on the head. Is that it's so funny because when Aegon and Otto are going back and forth, I was literally, and then he makes Kristen what a
boneheaded move.
I'm literally waiting for Aegon to say the line.
Yeah.
I'm literally like, Damon, say it. and he said it. He says, "My new hand will be a steel fist." I'm like, yes, he said the line. And so, I mean, and I think it all led back to what Kristen did, where him sending Eric, even though obviously it was a fool's errand, it was something. It was action.
Yeah.
So in his mind, Aegon's mind, you're just sending all your letters, you're doing all these plans, nothing is happening.
Yeah, I'm not getting my vengeance, basically. Right. I'm not getting anything out of this. My son is decapitated. I want action, not freaking plans and schemes.
Dragonstone.
I think Kristen
hold on.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Matt.
It's all good. Dragonstone would just be a burning cinder of ash if I was that king.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Just all your biggest dragons, just go.
Go burn it. Go burn it down.
Anybody who pled fealty to the blacks, burn everything.
Yeah.
Burn them down.
So
just like the Mad King.
But I think also clearly Aegon made that choice impulsively because you could see Kristen was just like, what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, Kristen, he did not want that job.
Yeah.
He was like, oh shit.
Does anybody want that job?
This is really gonna cut into my fucking your mom time.
Yeah, imagine being close to that guy. Like, yeah, I banged your mom the other day. Basically, your stepdad.
I was gonna protect her pussy later.
But I do want to give credit to all the actors in this scene. This whole Otto, Aegon, Kristen Cole. This scene is perfectly acted. Everybody knocked it out of the park. I love the feeling behind it all. Like Matt said, Otto's like frustration, and I felt like they were not recreating, but I think they were. What's the guy's name? Charles Dance as Tyrion Lannister. I got a lot of Tyrion Lannister vibes out of this scene where it was like, my freaking grandson is the king and he's an idiot.
Tywin. I got a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Since Cole is now the hand of the king, does that mean he's no longer the head of the
He's both
guard or whatever?
You can't be both, can you?
Yeah, you can in this day.
What?
The hand of the king is going to guard the bedchamber of the queen?
Oh,
I mean, that doesn't, but you know what I mean, though.
That doesn't.
It's protected, my queen.
That doesn't work for me.
I agree with you on that.
I don't think it's the first time that the Lord Commander of the King's Guard has served as the hand of the king as well. So
you're right.
There is precedence for it.
Is the hand of the king technically in charge of the King's Guard anyway? Because wasn't Ned Stark basically in charge of the King's Guard?
No. So the only people that the King's Guard answer to is the king, and the leader of the King's Guard is the Lord Commander of the King's Guard.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think there's some conflict of interest going on.
I feel you. I get that. Anyway,
that's why Jaime and Ned were not why, but another sticking point between Jaime and Ned Stark. They were always at odds because they always had to.
They had to collaborate, but they hated each other. Okay, that's right. Jaime was the
because the Lord Commander does serve on the Small Council, if memory serves.
Jaime wasn't the Lord Commander until later. I think it was Barristan Selmy when the first book started.
That's right.
Yeah,
I have to go back and rewatch season 1.
and we had Graham McTavish in season 1, right, as the Lord Commander of the
Harold Westerling. Yeah, Harold Westerling was. Yeah.
There was a conversation that after Otto gets fired, he goes and talks to Alicent, and he's like, "Look, I'm just going to go back to the High Tower and just I've got a son there who will listen to me. I'm going to do the best I can from there." And Alicent actually had a better plan, and I like the fact that she was like, "No, this would be better if you did this instead." And he's like, "Yeah, actually, that's true. Yeah, good point." So I like the fact that Alicent is still like, she is in some stances like smarter and she's more strategic than Otto, like, and she's like,
Otto listens to her this one time.
Yeah. The one time he listens to her, it might be the most important time. So I actually,
that's crazy that came from you because you're a woman.
100% he thinks like that.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to correct you on that. They finally mentioned Darren.
Yeah.
Finally. They finally mentioned Alicent's other kid because it wasn't Otto sent. Like, he did mention his own son, I think, back in, like, he's getting Ormond, his brother, and then I think he has another son there. But they finally mentioned Darren Targaryen, who's the youngest of Viserys and Alicent's children. He's at the High Tower with the other High Towers. So they finally mentioned him. So what Alicent advised him to do instead of going back to High Tower, because at this point,
Old Town. Sorry.
Old Town. Thank you. Sorry, Old Town.
That was my mistake. I got High Tower in his head and he couldn't get it
out. I know. Thanks for that. But she advised him to go to the Tyrells, to Highgarden, because I think at this point, the Highgarden, whoever is the Lord of Highgarden, is a child. So the High Towers are very, in many words, overmighty. So they almost kind of controlling them in some ways. So he's saying, hey, we need to shore up the Tyrells and everyone else in the Reach. So you need to go there and just make sure that area, that support is secure for Aegon.
Yeah, the Tyrells are not the powerhouse that they are in current day Game of Thrones.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the episode kind of finishes. I know we kind of mixed up the order. We talked about the big battle before we talked about this scene, which doesn't make sense with the episode, but we got all wrapped up in who was fighting who.
Our emotions.
Yeah, our emotions took over. We're not that professional, guys. The last scene, and this is funny because I actually started watching the show with my wife because it was so softballed that she could actually handle it. She could not handle
gentle soul.
She could not handle Game of Thrones. It was too much for her, and I wouldn't even let her watch the Red Wedding because she was pregnant at that time. I'm like, we're not doing that. But this show, because it's kind of like, it's a little nerfed. I'm actually like, yeah, we can watch this, babe. I think it's gonna be fine. And the last scene, she's watching it with me. Alicent walks into Aegon's room, and Aegon is just distraught. I mean, his son just died. He the poor bastard had a hell of a day, and
killing all these innocent rat catchers.
He's just distraught. He's losing. And they show a scene previously in the episode where Aegon and his wife is Helena. They walk past each other in the hallway, and they don't even. He's just like, fuck it, and. I don't know why. I don't know enough about his character to be like
his sister.
Also his sister, which may be kind of weird.
Wife.
Well, they gave each other a good look.
Did they?
Yeah.
I don't know about
that. I think they did.
Okay.
I think they did.
He probably blames her because that's his heir, and she's just like, "You let my heir die."
I don't know. I never got that. I didn't get that impression, but that'd be interesting.
That's like I got the whole. We were passing each other and they looked at each other, and it was kind of like having a rough day.
Yeah.
I'm having a rough day too. It's like let's keep going.
Oh,
that's kind of how I look at that.
Interesting perspective.
Also, they were never in love when they got married. They were
did their duty.
Yeah. It's a marriage of duty.
Yeah.
And
then Alicent walks in. She sees him crying, and she just freaking stops, turns around, and walks out. And
let him have his moment.
My wife was like, "What a shitty mom."
I didn't get that like that.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's the first thing my wife said. She's like, "Wow, Allison's kind of a shitty mom, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, kind of." Like, no comforting.
There's no denying that, but I feel like she just wanted him to have his time,
have his moment.
Well, that's one thing that I will say that the show has done well is to show that Rhaenyra loves her children and has a relationship with her children, and Alicent has had the staff raise her children.
Yeah.
Viserys never was involved in any of his children with Alicent. He was never involved in their lives, but he always wanted to know what was going on with Rhaenyra's kids.
Yeah. Also, going back to that scene where he confronts Otto and kind of strips him of being the hand of the king, like a big part of Otto's kind of chastisement is that he actually respected Aegon's father, like the previous king, where he was like, he was thoughtful. He even took his time. He was patient, and as he's listing off all these virtues, you can see like each one's like a knife to Aegon, where he's like, I never got love from my father. I never got his approval, and I cannot live up to his legacy.
Yeah, well, Otto was like, he said something about his father, and he was like, well, my father's dead. And he's like, yeah, and we're the lesser for it. And I was like, oh, damn, dude. What a freaking burn. Yeah, no wonder you got fired, bro.
Yeah. And the thing is that interestingly enough, Otto had done that with Viserys at one point, I think, in terms of the line of succession. And he kind of got a little too in his feelings, and that happened too. But it happens here. But one thing before we get to the end of the episode, one thing we forgot to mention about Aemond is we see Aemond with his lover Brothel. Right. And I could be wrong, I think that person he was with, Judy, I could be wrong or right here, but I think that might be Alice Rivers. I could be wrong. But we see Aemond admit that he regretted what he did because he didn't want to be bigged up. He didn't want to be like, oh, puff me up, make me look awesome. He admitted he was vulnerable with this person.
He said, I lost my temper, is what he said in that scene.
Yes.
And what was also interesting about that scene is like without all of his like armor and accoutrements, like
so skinny.
He's a tiny, frail guy.
He's so skinny. He's a little string bean,
but
it was interesting hearing that conversation because he looked at the assassination attempt as validation that Daemon views him as an equal and a threat.
Yes.
Sweet summer child.
Sweet summer child.
I would love to see those two go toe to toe.
You'll get your wish.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope they don't nerf that shit.
If they pull the punches on that, I think I'll be done.
Really?
Me too. Whoa. Me too.
All right. Okay, well, that's it. That's the entire episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you appreciate that we are just talking the shit out of the show, down to every little detail, and we do not agree by all means. Like, Vader's like, you guys are freaking idiots. This show's great.
Great show. Having a good time.
I am having a good time with it. I do wish that they would stop pulling their punches. That's my only takeaway from this episode is I felt like as big as this episode should have been, it felt very small.
I'm sorry you didn't get to see the corpse of the 5-year-old's head flop down the wall.
Go down the freaking King's Landing.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? I didn't need to see it like roll down the street, but like having it instead of like cutting where they did, have it just kind of like you could see it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was really wishing that the head was gonna go
yeah
off the side of the thing when they hit the rut.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
The Bears catch it and be like,
because they
and then
put it back.
And then Helena's watching it and she's just like,
been great. I mean, that, I mean, they tease that. They tease stitches, it. They kind of stretch a little bit.
Yeah, they're moving around.
The body goes this way. And it's like, if they would have shown that in front of the kid's mom, then we would have known why she's batshit crazy for the rest of her life. I just watched my son's head flop down the street.
See, the way I read that is like the head never actually fell off.
Yeah.
But the story that they spread far and wide was that, it did.
See, I don't know if I like that though. That's
it's too ambiguous.
Yeah, it leaves too much to speculation.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though, and this was, I don't know if they're ever going to do this in this show because they didn't really do it as much in Game of Thrones, but one of the things I loved about George R. R. Martin's writing, particularly he did this in A Feast for Crows, is that the further away a story is heard, like something that actually happened, the more kind of people like believe, like when it became a little kind of ridiculous, people would believe it more if it's further away. But the closer to the event, then people are being like, I don't know about that. Like, and I think that if they could do that here, I don't know if they're going to do that, but if they could do that here, that would be a great thing to do because that's always like how things get misconstrued. Things that, oh no, this happened this way. Oh no, this happened. And it's just like, that'll be a great thing to show war propaganda. And that that'll be a great weapon to use.
You mean the bear and the maiden fair? Yeah, she fucked that
bear.
For sure she fucked that bear.
Exactly. Or what was the stories that Arya was telling Tywin? Like, oh, they say that Robb Stark can turn into a direwolf. And he charges onto the battlefield on the back of a direwolf and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I would love to hear some stories like that come out of this show. But we'll get there. I'm not done with the show. By all means, it's great. It's awesome. I'm having a great time. I do think it's being nerfed too much. They need to beef it up a little bit. But that's my only gripe.
I just want to make see if you are aware. You probably are, but like everything that's happening right now, both Arya and the Princess Charisse brought up during Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Well, Joffrey spoiled this entire show.
Joffrey spoiled the
entire If you remember, I'm not going to say it in case people have forgotten, but don't go back. Don't go back because Joffrey literally tells you how the show ends in like one scene when he's with the hot chick.
Well, he tells Marjorie
Tyrell. Yeah, Tyrell.
Well, he tells how the conflict ends, not how the show ends.
Don't spoil it, Charles. All right, guys.
I'm just correcting.
We gotta end it. It's been an hour. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. Really do appreciate it. Be back every single week. We are gonna break down all the episodes of this season. We're having a great time doing it. So join us.
Spoil the shit out of it.
Make sure to comment your thoughts below. Are we right? Are we wrong? Do you think it's nerfed? Do you want more? Do you want less? What do you think?
Have you read the book?
Have you read the books?
More hot D.
I want freaking paragraphs in these comments, guys. Go at it. All right, folks. Have a great one.
I won't read them.
Not just hot D, but D on fire.
Yeah, man.
Oh, wow.
All right, folks. Have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday. Stay salty.